Hello and welcome to another movie review from New Catholic Generation. I'm David from the YouTube channel Catholic Contrast, joined by Renee from Reborn Pure, Ned from Parables of the Film Industry, our special guest Amy from the YouTube channel April Grace, and Joseph from the YouTube channel The Catholic Apologist. Alright, so Joe, what did you think overall of the movie?
Well, I did not love it ecstatically. It wasn't something I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite movie of all time. But it was a lot better than a lot of the stuff that we've reviewed in the past, and that was very refreshing and relieving to me. You know, it's not like it's a Protestant film, so I can't enjoy it at all. I did, okay? I'm not...
You're not being too stubborn or stickly or
stingy. Right.
I'm not stingy. There we go.
I'm not like that. I'm not actually that hard to please.
Despite what you may think after watching a movie review.
It's just like overall, it was pretty good.
What did you think, Amy?
I thought it was really interesting, really entertaining. There weren't very many things I really thought were, I wish it was different or I didn't like. I mean, it was a movie. I enjoyed it with their little jokes and such, and the way that everything kind of played out was done really well. Some things I feel like they did better than most movies. Looking at how the review of the trailer beforehand, we were like, oh, this is like a romantic comedy, and all of that. We're like, oh, it's just gonna be like another stereotypical one. Right. But actually, that wasn't the main focus of the film, and that was really refreshing. And so it was much more low key. And so when looking at the relationship between Gavin and Kelly, it was treated more like a courtship rather than like a dating and we're now in a relationship or we're now together. It's like more progressive and kind of more like refreshing in real life, and kind of like how a relationship, I guess, should be kind of gone into properly rather than just, and now we're dating. It's like, let me get to know you a bit better first.
Yeah, so. It did seem natural as opposed
to
like some setups in movies.
And then it's more realistic too. It's not like, your happy ending. It's just like, and everything's fine and now they're together and happily ever after. It's like, well, it kind of progresses. Like there's more to the story. It doesn't just end on a happy note. It ends on, there's more to it, and you can kind of leave that to the imagination without
leaves room
for a beginning.
Yeah.
It's like you don't reach the end. You reach the. He figures out that his whole approach has been wrong the entire time, and he needs to start in a different way.
Exactly.
All right, well, I only have two things to say about this movie. One, the WWE, and two, Shawn Michaels.
Which was going to happen whether the movie was garbage or the eighth wonder of the world.
Putting my fandom of the WWE aside, I really enjoyed this movie. I have to say, Resurrection of Gavin Stone is my favorite modern Christian film that we have seen so far.
And then you mean it's set in the present
That's set in modern time and everything like that. Yeah, I have to say that's like my favorite one so far. It had a lot of really good funny scenes. It wasn't an in-your-face Christian movie. Oddly enough, and I was a little bit shocked by this, conversion scene was really artistically well done. For me, I thought it was very artistically well done, as well as like a few like other things, and I'm like, and that for a comedy was actually a little bit surprising for me.
Renee, what did you think of Jesus Christ Superstar?
Well, first
see, that time we got it. It was a joke.
Yeah, that was actually a joke.
First off, I was so grateful. Grateful to the Lord that it was not actually Jesus Christ Superstar. And then I also thought it was a very great family-friendly movie as well, despite finding it very predictable, as I think Joe said while we were filming. So I kind of stole that one from Joe, but I agree that it was very predictable.
It was very predictable.
Pretty much from watching
and
the
all
trailer,
the
you can
jokes
figure it out.
didn't really surprise me. Like you saw the setup, setup, except for when he came to church dressed in a Protestant outfit.
Oh my god,
that was perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There's one thing I didn't realize, because he also, in addition to wearing that, he also says blessings to everyone.
Oh my god.
Actually, if you listen to
he
the
walks
very
in blessings.
So at the very end of our interview with Dallas Jenkins, when he says goodbye to us, he says blessings.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless.
God bless.
Yeah, God bless. Blessings. Peace be to you.
Blessings to you.
I did.
He did say that. Oh my gosh.
okay with the relationship part of the movie where he's like trying to get the girl, but then he's faking being Christian and stuff. It reminded me a ton of the movie Christian Mingle, but it's with the girl who goes on a date with a Christian guy because she's so alone. And she goes to the Christian Mingle and meet nice people, and then fakes going to, you know, a Protestant church with the guy and everything. So it's very similar, but it initially like just made me a little annoyed at the main character because just being a woman, I hate when guys lie.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh yeah, he fakes being a Christian for so long in the movie. I'm like, okay, I get that you did it in the beginning just to get the part of Jesus Christ. I almost said superstar, but I stopped myself. But it just kind of grinded my gears the whole time. This girl was like, wow, you actually might be like thinking of a future with this guy. And meanwhile, he's just being a total liar. And I'm like, oh, you're so horrible.
You're so awful.
But he finally straightens it out in the end, you know. I'm still trying to forgive him. You know, it might take me some time, but
You'll get there.
I'll get there. It's just annoying. So, those are my big impressions from the film, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, as some other people have said, it's a story that there's a lot of elements of it we've seen before. Like you're comparing it to Christian Mingle. Dallas Jenkins himself compared it to Sister Act. And for me, when I watched it, the immediate plot I was thinking of was the movie Cars from Pixar.
That was so funny. Like, how did you put that together?
gosh.
Like, Lightning McQueen comes into
Well, this
town,
is like-
nobody knows him there. Like, in
Lightning
the church.
McQueen and Brett Galton are Gavin Stone. They're very similar
It is.
characters. They
It
both
really
get stuck
is
with community
true.
service and everything else.
I didn't even think about that. That's
Yeah.
so true.
Oh,
Yes.
The pastor's the wise old car.
And then Kelly's
Does that mean she's
selling.
gonna die in the sequel?
I mean, it just sort of shows that, you know, it's possible. It's so much more nice when, you know, everybody's sort of like a real character. You're not trying to portray everybody as like these perfect people or like
Right.
these bad people. Everybody's sort of like they have their good points, their bad points, and you can sort of have fun with it and, you know, poke fun at yourself, poke fun at...
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, and that's one thing, like, doing a lot of writing for the scripts and the skit videos. I really appreciated the comedy itself. I thought the comedy, it was funny.
It
and
was.
none of it went too far, and it was really entertaining. I really liked it. It was, again, refreshing.
I really love like how in this Christian comedy you can make fun to a certain extent of Christian stereotypes. Like how sometimes when like Christians are trying to do like artistic work or something like that, especially with like plays that are a little bit like over the top or like don't really know how to like really truly like focus like on the character and stuff like that properly. And then here comes this atheist actor and says, hey, no, you guys really, you kind of know what you're doing, but
You really don't.
you really don't. So this is how we're going to fix it. And he does it in a sincere manner, which I really liked. He wasn't like in your face jerk about it or anything like that, which I really did like. And I also did kind of like some of the Christian characters were not like extremely like pious and like practically perfect in every way and all that kind of thing, like in a lot of other modern Christian movies. That was actually kind of made fun of a little bit in this movie. Especially with the main actress, who she kind of like viewed herself as like great and pious.
As it says on the poster, the good girl.
Yeah, the good girl, exactly. She's like the extremely like good pious girl, but the thing is, she still has a lot to learn in this movie, and I liked that. And I like how like this atheist and how this Christian have a lot to learn from each other, and I'm just like, hey, in a modern setting. That actually makes sense, guys.
For me, one of the characters I laughed at the most was that radio show host.
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh,
that
He's such a good actor.
Yes, that was really funny.
It's like take like a secular like, oh, let's just blow everything up. It sounded kind of like a TMZ thing, but it was like, and I'm thinking, this is like a Christian thing, or like getting in on like the gossip and the details, and like, oh, let's like bring up like your past, you know, your ground-breaking role, and like, oh my gosh, like say the line, and we're like, everybody is so over that. Like that was when he was 7, and he's now like in his 30s. Like, why are we still doing this? And it's like, tell us more. And we're like, you can kind of tone it down a bit, but it was really, really funny.
Yeah,
it was really entertaining.
Great.
Yeah.
Another thing that I liked, I guess, about the main character Gavin Stone and also his dad is that it's funny because I wouldn't even think of them as atheists. They're just people who didn't grow up with a real religion and don't really. It's not their thing. They just. It's not.
It's very realistic.
It's more realistic. Like in a lot of these other movies, where just like you have the the atheist with the devil horns, and you just like their motive is they're just evil and they hate Christianity.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I
These
love
people,
the dad just like walks in and Gavin gets home. He's like, so how'd that Jesus thing go? At that church, right?
Yeah.
And he's like being understanding about his day, and that's one thing he was doing.
Yeah.
And it's like it doesn't stand out as like, oh, that Jesus thing. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what some people do, right? It's so casual but very real. And one quick thing about like when I was watching the film, just the visual aspect about it, it's a really great film, but I still felt like I was on different sets, and there were extras walking through, and I really, really felt the set and the extras, and I wasn't like immersed in the environment very much.
Yeah.
I think you were talking about like there were some scenes where just like there would be this one extra that would walk by and it would just like point out it to you. I think it's the scene where he's talking to his agent on the phone.
that
What a
one.
scene.
That was
It's just like the absolute perfect extra. He's had his coffee and his phone, and he's kind of like rushing through, and it's just like
It's supposed to make it a little more natural.
The
Yeah.
extra
But
watches
it's
this
just
review.
like-
He's like, "Oh no, I screwed up my film."
no, but then it'd be like onesie twosie
Right,
with very
right.
few extras.
Right.
There's not. I don't remember a scene where they're like, maybe when he's shooting that movie at the end. But other than that, it felt like onesie twosie extras walking through, and I feel like it could have been a greater movie maybe if there were scenes in like a coffee shop with people in sweatshirts and hats, and that didn't seem like they were pristine dressed extras, in this perfect set. When he was walking into church and saying blessings to everyone, and there were a lot of random extras that were a bit more unorganized, that felt very real, and it was funny because it looked like he was just coming up to these people who didn't even know they were making a movie about it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on? But so my advice maybe would be to have those casual scenes with a lot of randomly dressed extras just moseying around almost, instead of the person going by like,
I watch a lot of production blogs. I wonder if they just like at one of their Sunday services they filmed that scene. I imagine they would have.
That would be good. I don't know. Then there was a scene where they're walking outside at night, and I saw they were trying even harder because they put more extras in there and they zoomed out more so that it could see more buildings.
Yeah.
But it still looked too perfect somehow. But you were getting there with that scene. You kind of knew what I was looking for with that scene.
Yeah.
You tried. That was good.
So I know, Joe, at the beginning you mentioned that there were a few theological things, just a Protestant sort of Catholic conflict thing. That sort of popped out
But
to you.
let's bring them out just because.
Yeah.
It's an
So,
opportunity.
when we talked to the director, if you saw that, his the main point of the story is a message of forgiveness. And that is something that Catholics and Protestants can agree on. Now,
Absolutely.
some Protestants say it's only faith, it works on all that jazz. But that wasn't necessarily what this was about. And I mean, there were some positive things, like when they fixed the lady's car, it was just like, we don't want the credit. Yeah, he said that. That was like, that was great. You know, that's exactly what, as Catholics, we need to get into our system of like, we don't want the credit for this. That's extremely biblical. Basically, with this, the first thing that kind of made me start to go, they went into church, and I mean, their church is what we would call a concert hall. I mean, just in our sense, just because there's no Jesus, as in literally Eucharistically present. There's a band and there's music, and that's how Protestants worship. I mean, we have music, but the music isn't the center in the sense that that's not the thing we're focusing on. We're focusing on the Eucharist. So, they get up and they're all talking everything. Now, if that would have been in a Catholic church, I would have had a problem, because like the Catholic Church, our churches are not meant to be a random hall where you just talk to everybody all around you all the time when Jesus is literally present right before you. But Jesus wasn't literally present. So in that aspect, it's different. What really got me was the part where they were doing communion, guys. I'm just gonna sit there like so close, like.
And I could feel that too. I was like, ooh.
They said the words.
They literally
and, like,
quoted the Last Supper discourse where Jesus is like, "This is my body, which is given for you. This is the blood of my covenant. Do this in remembrance of me." It's just like they're literally quoting the words of the consecration. It's just like, guys.
I know that one hurts.
Guys, all you need to do is go to John 6 and read John 6, and you'll know that he doesn't mean that as a symbol. Like, that's all you need to do. This is what I'm thinking inside. But, I mean, obviously, because, again, this is a Protestant film, so I'm not expecting them to be Catholic. That's why I could still, enjoy this film.
Right,
If it was a Catholic film trying to do these things, then I'd have a problem.
Yeah,
A big problem.
Yeah.
Well, I
Exactly.
also find that scene very funny still, where he just like drinks the wine before.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
he's trying to
drinks
wash
a
down the
couple.
bread, and then he realizes
Oh,
he
yeah.
wasn't supposed to do that. He has to do it with an empty cup.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the other thing. He just, like, the thing that kind of cracked me up was the child, like, this is the cup, and he has this little shot glass.
Well, I don't know. He's like, I went to a Presbyterian church when I was growing up because my dad was Catholic, my mother was still Protestant. And so, yeah, that's what we do. So I remember that very clearly. I know.
Actually, same exact thing, because I was actually raised Baptist originally, and that same exact thing happened at our Baptist church.
Mhm.
So it's really funny. I could identify with a few of these things, but yeah, that's what Protestants did. So
Well,
that
yeah.
was really, it's really interesting.
I mean, again, if this would have been done in the Catholic Church, major problem, because
Oh,
not
yeah,
only should
yeah,
you not
yeah,
use a
yeah.
shot glass, but you shouldn't use glass in general. There's specific rules about the chalice needs to be gold. And
Right.
Whatever. So, like, those things just kind of made me like, I really wish. But,
I wish. More than
just it's the
anything.
Catholic in me, the really loving, the Eucharist a lot, and just like, and then they had the misquote from St. Francis of Assisi, but
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
Catholics get that one wrong too.
Lots
I didn't know
of them
that
do,
till
but,
several
yeah.
years ago about the whole preach the gospel if necessary.
We had it in one of our reaction videos, so.
Mhm.
But then we added an annotation to
We
correct
did
it.
say, we didn't actually say that, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it reached.
It can be true. I just think that the quote sometimes can diminish the effect that words can have sometimes. Both are extremely important and in the right context at the correct time in the right place. Sometimes
Of
it
course.
is right to use words, and
Yes,
that's how you're
yes.
supposed to preach the gospel. Sometimes it is right to use your actions instead of words. And it's not like all the time, like all the time you can always preach the gospel effectively when you use actions. No, sometimes the most effective path is to use words. It's just not all the time, and you
Yeah.
have to pray for the wisdom of the Holy Spirit to know which one is when. The only thing I got a little bit nervous about, which I'm not quite sure how to formulate my thought on it, and in some respects it was true. The main female actress kept on emphasizing the whole Jesus wouldn't want fireworks. It's true in a respect. Jesus, and I don't know exactly what the film goal of it was, but at the same time as Jesus was humble, and at the same time he did or does want us to treat him with as much honor and respect, and to give our lives to him. And if we have, like, for instance, at the Mass, if we have a pontifical high Latin Mass or something like that to bring on the smells and the bells, as it's called, that's all stuff to honor our Lord, and provide it's not done out of pride but out of love for God. Like a whole bunch of extra stuff, and making sure Jesus is the center can be a very good thing. I understand what they were talking. I don't think from after talking to the director, I don't think that
I think the intention at that point it was still very much where Gavin Stone was having a very sort of, he wanted to introduce all this stuff to the play, just
right,
because
of him. Yeah, and that's why I was kind of like, I don't really think that this is a problem, but every now and then kind of it got pushed a few times in the phrases that it made me think that maybe a little bit like, okay, Jesus does want us, to do a lot, give a lot for him, because that's the best thing for us. And I just it sometimes gave me a slight impression that this is kind of like, make sure you give Jesus due attention. He is the Son of God and Savior, and who we owe all honor and glory, and is amazing.
Yeah.
So
I can see how that went kind of wrong.
So just it could
Yeah.
it gave a kind of confusing impression
Yeah.
for me, not sure what it is. But again, from talking to the director, I don't think that's what he
No.
was going for.
Right.
But just for somebody watching, it's possibly confusing for that. So I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah.
I wanted to save it for last because this is the thing that I freaked out about the most about the movie, and to not make it as funny, I was really happy that Shawn Michaels was in the movie. I know some of you are probably gonna be like, Ned, shut up. But one of the reasons why I was really happy that he was in the movie was for a few reasons. One, Shawn Michaels was actually a really big, what's the right word to use? Influence, yeah, really big influence for me when I was a teenager. I started watching the WWE with my brother-in-law around, I think it was like 2002, something like that, and apparently that was the same time when Shawn Michaels came back out of retirement after taking so many years off because he felt like this rock star life was having a really bad influence on him and everything, and it was during his first retirement period where he actually converted to Christianity and everything. And by the way, his faith story is absolutely beautiful, at least in my opinion. I think it's really, really good. Dallas Jenkins sent us a video of Shawn Michaels talking about his faith story and his conversion story. And it was really, really inspiring. He went, he talked about like his earlier years in the WWE of how he was kind of like into, like partying, alcohol abuse, and I think he mentioned like doing some drugs and stuff like that. His wife eventually became heavily involved in Christianity and stuff like that, and eventually he stopped being involved with the WWE because he realized that lifestyle wasn't really like good for him and everything, and he wanted to become a father, a better husband and everything, and even then he was still kind of failing, but then eventually and by the way, this made me cry. I did not know that this was like the turning point for him. When he was still like in his partying stage, and when he heard his 2-year-old son go over to him and say, "Daddy's tired," he realized, oh my gosh, I need to turn my life around. He noted he's at the age of really soaking in and realizing that his daddy is off and that he's not in a good place and everything. And I was crying at that point. That was absolutely beautiful. And eventually, he turned his life around. He became a Christian and everything. And then he got back into the WWE. And one of the very first matches I saw was Shawn Michaels' comeback. And Shawn Michaels, as his wrestling character, left a really huge influence on me. It's actually because of him. Fun fact about Ned. I actually wanted to be a WWE wrestler back in the day. I actually, I eventually got into like weightlifting and everything. I actually used to be like really decently buff and everything.
He looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Absolutely. No. And then 4 years of college put a lot of weight on me, but
Freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior 15.
Yeah, basically. It all adds up, unfortunately, guys.
Like your sleep debt.
It's all that stress, guys.
Sleep jet.
And yeah, that too. But the reason why I really freaked out about Shawn Michaels being in this movie is because he himself, because of his faith life, the fact that he was, at least in my opinion, an amazing wrestler, even though it's fake. An amazing wrestler and just an overall great person. I was ecstatic that he was in this movie because this was actually his film debut. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, and so that's kind of like the really like huge reason why I freaked out about this. Also, Dallas Jenkins, you missed a great opportunity to use his signature move name, Sweet Chin Music, in your movie.
Where would he have inserted it?
He could have gone up to Gavin Stone and said, "Hey, Sweet Chin, bro."
Like, even as simple as that.
Sweet Chin Music, come on. He could have just went up to him and said, "Hey, Sweet Chin, bro," or something like that. You missed the opportunity.
Why is it called Sweet Chin Music? Is there like a music cue that plays when he does it?
Oddly enough, no. He basically just slams his foot into the ground like 3 times and like has like the entire crowd cheering him on. and then he just like goes up to his weary opponent and just like kicks him in the chin. It's amazing. It's if you want to call kicking someone in the chin amazing, but I'm sorry, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Meanwhile, Renee's rolling her eyes at me, but so yeah, that's his like signature move. I loved him as a wrestling person. He was fantastic, and I would do anything to be able to meet him one day because he is just an amazing man, at least in my opinion.
So, final verdict. Joe, what would you rate the movie? What was your
Well, it was not theologically inaccurate in so many different ways. I couldn't handle it. Had a few misdoings here, and I mean, it was a pretty predictable film. Actually, if I was Protestant, I'd probably give it something like a 90 or a 95. But being a Catholic, as far as how much I enjoyed it, I'm going to give it an 83. I'd probably give it less if it wasn't for the fact it was not much less, but a little bit less, but for the fact it was refreshing. And it was well made. I really appreciated the comedy being done well. So I'm going to give it an 83%.
I thought it was a great movie, very entertaining. How they like set up the conversion scene and the turnaround all around was like I could see like that like cinematography and like how they set it up was fantastic. I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was enjoyable. Predictability wise, like it was just like the context of the movie and how they did. Like I just thought it was really interesting. Overall, I enjoyed it. In percentage wise, like 80. Out of 10, like 8 out of 10. Obviously, you can all like convert the factors and stuff, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
Let's see. On a rating scale, I would give it an 85. Not enough Shawn Michaels, not enough sweet chin music. Okay, but an actual reality though. I would actually give it an 85. I really enjoyed the movie. It was refreshing. It was great. It was funny. As an old Protestant, I really enjoyed the movie. As a Catholic, I still really enjoyed the movie. Predictable, yes, and yeah, we've seen it before, but honestly, that's fine. As long as you make a good movie and it is something we've seen before, you're good in my book. 85, guys.
Well, I'm gonna give it an 84. But I
1% higher than me. You have to define it. Okay.
I was
But
thinking about
one
going
lower
lower
than
than
you.
you. I almost was thinking about going lower than you. I'm gonna say 84 because the acting was really phenomenal. I thought like even the smallest roles did a really great
They
job.
did,
There was
really did.
wasn't that one person that comes on screen and you're like, oh yeah, okay. Ouch. Like it's hard to watch or something.
Yeah.
Everybody was so good.
Yeah.
And so keep doing that, keep choosing those right actors because it really helped with the fact that even though I thought I was on a bunch of sets, the people were really spot on that they chose. Keep doing that, getting the experienced actors because it was really helped.
Paid off. It was worth it.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and if you keep doing more of that, I would give the movie right now like an 88.
Oh, your review.
My review. Well, this was a very interesting movie to me in a lot of ways because, in a lot of ways, it's a meta movie because it's about an actor
Yeah,
in
it's
a movie, and he's going through a lot of issues that deal with his relationship with his career in Hollywood, and also the whole process of them doing a Christian play at this church. And to me, it really reminded me of a lot of the stuff that I actually grew up with watching YouTube when I was younger, because YouTube was like a huge thing for me. I grew up, I idolized all the YouTubers, but there's a lot of similar things on YouTube with the whole like problems that Gavin Stone goes through, especially with just like, especially in like the religious debate community online. There's a lot of just, it's almost like a gladiator ring in a lot of ways, with a lot of people just like making video responses just to like sort of pwn the other person.
Yeah.
And there's just, there's a lot of great people who do it, but there's also just a lot of huge egos. And if anybody follows like the mainstream YouTube drama, it's pretty well known that 2016 has been the year of drama, and sort of I feel like a lot of YouTube in general has become very much like the religious debate community that I used to follow was. And it's one of those things where, you know, I look at it, there's a lot of stuff that Gavin Stone does, especially when he's talking about like where his his mentor when he was younger just said, like, you know, only focused on yourself, just sort of self-promotion. That's really sort of, that's a lot of the attitudes that YouTube and I guess modern social media and a lot of stuff is created in general, where it's all just about, you know, promoting yourself.
That's our society. We're very
Yeah.
individualistic.
Very, very much.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
reminds me of why I love to share other people's stuff on social media news.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where since I started doing Catholic YouTube and seeing like a lot of the stuff, like I wasn't aware of a lot of the Catholic media there was, because I just grew up watching sort of like the unfortunate sort of just like the gladiator ring, as I said, of YouTube in the religious debate, and I was introduced to so many new faces once I started doing it, both through the networking and New Catholic Generation, Word on Fire, Ascension Presents, with Father Mike Schmitz, and all the other voices that do such a great job. I mean, it also it makes you realize that like there's an attitude that you have to have about these things is different than a lot of the ways that you know, a traditional YouTuber would go about it. Like one of the scenes that really stood out to me is one we mentioned before about Gavin Stone goes to fix the car, and they talk about not you know, they don't go out to meet or they don't get credit. It's like it just makes me think of like the whole controversy on YouTube with like how a lot of YouTubers like film themselves like helping homeless people or doing like charity stuff, but they do it for a video. It's like there's like for views and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like, how would Jesus make a YouTube video? How would Jesus run a YouTube channel? A lot of times I see in dialogue online, and in some movies, I won't name names this time, but I think we know which was, where it's like, I realized like the reason I didn't like it is because there's more of an emphasis on just intellectual ponage than there is on actually making a personal connection with people.
Yeah, what
And-
you just said just made me cringe like so much. Intellectual opponent.
I see, that's what I see
It's
so
made
much.
Catholic YouTube so toxic. It makes me sick to my stomach.
Yes.
When you spend all this time making these messages that are contrary to that, and then just see it happen in the comments, no matter what you do,
It's not just about like your message and like the
No.
details, but
They
like
take it
how
somewhere else.
you. It's like how you also like deliver the message.
Yep. You can have a video sitting there praying the rosary, and there will be 10, 15 different intellectual ponages going on in the comments.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like the point has been missed.
People are so intense about, for whatever reason, what's ever happened in their lives, that they just use this YouTube thing as, at least in either comment section or maybe even just actual YouTubers going out there and just ranting so hard all the time and not being wise with the time and the place of when to be more emotional or less emotional, that you end up feeding anger back and forth to each other so much that you forget about why the message is important. It's important because you care, not because you want to be right.
Right.
And that's so much of what social media has ended up becoming.
Yeah.
And you also don't look at the people behind like these views as well. You're just like, this is right, this is wrong, and you're wrong, and this is right. And you don't look at like how people came to these. You don't look at, you know, what their journey is to this point, or maybe why they switched, or something like that. Just like there's a whole story. We're not all one-dimensional people. We're very deep. We have layers. We have different experiences in our own lives, and just like trying to reach, you know, not just like this is right or wrong, but like help each other on the process of coming to understand each other, so we can have a dialogue. Not I'm better than you, or you're wrong. Like it's a dialogue. We need to help each other understand. Sometimes it's not so much about this is right, this is wrong. It's about how we both come to a better understanding of each other and help each other on the journey of life.
It's actually really funny that, you know, you guys had mentioned like all this and everything. So I was talking to a coworker today, and he's a really great guy and everything. And we were talking, well, we were like joking with him like how he's so judgy and everything, even though he's nowhere, he's not judgmental at all. We just like to joke around that he is judgmental. And we were like talking about like how judgment has been kind of like destroyed. How judgment, like how we view judgment and how we view critiquing and everything when it comes to like coming on to another person's like point of view or to what their overall message or something like that. It's no longer about you correcting them out of love, mercy, or anything like that. It's I have the upper hand. I know everything that's right. I know it, and you're wrong. It's not. I certainly think you're wrong, and I'm coming in out of love to tell you why it's wrong. It's I'm right, you're wrong. It's not I want to correct you because I love you. It's I want to correct you because I am right.
And that makes it so much harder when there is somebody that comes in and just like saying these things that are true, but because it happens so many times that when somebody's trying to say something that's true, they say it without caring about the person.
Yeah.
When people are hearing stuff, even if it's true, it's just automatic for them to turn it off and just be like, they want to show that they're right and just like pridefully, and I'm going to turn that off. Even when there are some people that come in and just be like, I am here to say this truth, to try and live this truth in my life, but I say it, I do it because I want you to have it too. In fact, if you ever have read the Litany of Humility, the last prayer in there is that others become holier than I, provided I become as holy as I should. And that's exactly what our mentality should be when we are evangelizing, when we are reaching out to people, when we speak what we wholeheartedly believe to be true. It is because we want for them what we have, what we have understood, what by the grace of God we have been gifted with in our faith. And we hope that, provided we are always on the path to holiness, that they become a greater saint than us. That should be the mentality. And that's what we keep losing.
Absolutely.
I agree.
So, your overall review of the movie?
Overall review, yeah. Overall, it's difficult also on these scales because, it feels like with, what are you talking about, like B's and C's range? It's sort of like 88 to 78. It's like putting in the average range where if you're rating it from 0 to 100, 50 should probably be average. So
yeah.
I don't know. I usually think of it like I was going to say maybe I give it a 7 out of 10, but that doesn't mean I'm giving it necessarily a lower rating.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Overall, I thought it was a solid movie, but the messages just really resonated with me. So on a personal level, I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope we'll see you back here for the next video.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
No, that's my job.
You were too late.
Ah!